Hey guys, today I am actually going to be making some vegan pumpkin donuts and they're going to be baked. I heard that the best donuts are actually baked and then fried, but maybe that's coming in the near future when I start experimenting with the frying part. But today I'm actually going to be sharing how to make these donuts, and I haven't discussed it on my YouTube channel yet, but I've been sharing that I've done these back in October on my Facebook and my Instagram, and all my friends were going crazy. So I decided, let me just finally make a video and share how to make these guys. So I do apologize if my voice is going in and out right now. I just finished serving, and usually when I serve a lot during the week, this tends to happen, you know? So here we go. Alright, so if you guys actually want to go in depth with baking this, I like to make fresh pumpkin puree. I made my own pumpkin spice, and I can teach you guys if you just want to make a shortcut. Just buy pumpkin spice seasoning. You can find it in any aisle at any store. Sorry, not any aisle, but you know, spice section, whatever. At any store. And then the pumpkin puree, if you just want to buy a can, that's fine. I did find out pumpkin puree canned from the store actually is not pumpkin, it's squash. Isn't that crazy? Like, what? But that's why it is actually much orange in color than what the actual pumpkin would be when we're about to make this pumpkin puree, which I'll show you guys. To bake it fresh, I unfortunately did not film this part. You're gonna find a nice, like I would say, like, hang on, it's hard with like one hand right now. And the phone keeps falling like that. So basically, like, if this is like the bottom of the pumpkin, you would want it maybe like this size. Like, they're called like sugar pumpkins most of the time because they have the most sugar to them. If you want to do a big old jack-o'-lantern, the very first time I made my pumpkin donuts, I did use a jack-o'-lantern. The only thing with that is it is a hassle to take all the guts out and seeds, which you can bake those, yes. Or to even like just cut it down into chunks and pieces and get them smaller. And then you gotta cut it up into cubes after you're done baking them, just to put it in like your blender. I have a magic bullet, so that would even take longer with a jack-o'-lantern. I did do it, like I said. It does take some time if you want to go that route, but if you want to cut some time and save energy, just go with like a smaller version pumpkin, okay? The part I did not film was me cutting the pumpkin. Basically what you do is cut it up like I said. You're gonna leave like nice chunk sizes. Put it in your oven at 375 degrees and bake that for at least an hour or more. Take a fork, after an hour, take a fork and then like poke the pumpkin. If it's nice and like easy to poke through, that means it's ready. If not, it needs a little bit more time if it's still a little bit tender. But that's when you know you're golden and it smells fresh. You can even eat the pumpkin as soon as it's like out of the oven like that. It's so good. So that's the part I didn't film, like I said, but I'm actually gonna show you guys where I'm taking the baked pumpkin and I'm gonna put it in my magic bullet and we're gonna go from there. Alright, so this is all the pumpkin that's been baked and it was peeled off. The skin, you do not want the skin, which there's a piece of skin right there. Oh well. Once it's all done being baked, it should be easily peeled off the skin of the pumpkin, and then just toss the skin. If you like pumpkin skin, I guess you can eat it as well. And now I say a lot, guys. I need to work on that. Then you're just gonna take it, put it in your blender. Usually it should blend well. If it's having a little bit trouble, like if you put too much in the cup, just like add a little bit water, not too much, just to help it go. And then if you need more, just add more as you go. Alright, so hopefully you're not like me and own a magic bullet. Magic bullets are awesome, but they are tiny. They do less work, obviously, compared to bigger blenders. So if you were like me and have a magic bullet, you just took like 5 million years just to puree all of that. If not, and you have a great fucking blender, then you should be done pretty quickly. What your puree should look like is like a thick liquid, basically. If it's chunky, double blend it, do whatever you gotta do until it looks right. Now, the recipe does not call for much pumpkin puree. What's great about the puree, since you're making so much after cutting your sugar pumpkin or your jack-o'-lantern, what you can do is put all the puree that you can into as many Ziploc bags as you have versus your puree, and you can put it in the freezer, and it could stay pretty nice and fresh for like a few months or so. If you don't put it in the freezer with your excess puree and you want to keep it in the fridge, it will probably only last you a week. So if you're planning to do a lot of baking, the fridge is fine. But if you want to save it, definitely do the freezer in the Ziploc bags. So if you guys haven't realized, I'm just kind of prepping you guys before we actually get to the main ingredients and start making the donuts. This is very in-depth, I know, I'm sorry guys, but if you want freshness, this is what we're doing. If you want to skip this, I'll probably somewhere on this video tell you where to skip in the video to go straight to the baking part with the main ingredients. The next part I'm trying to work on, unfortunately I ran out of brown sugar, but if you guys want to learn how to make brown sugar is basically granulated sugar and molasses mixed together. What you're going to do is you're going to take 1 cup of sugar and 1 tablespoon of the molasses. So you're just going to keep mixing that. The more molasses you put, the darker your brown sugar will be. Obviously the less, the lighter it will be. So this is my first time really making my own brown sugar. When the two mix together, the sugar and the molasses, it definitely gets chunky right away, the molasses part. So what you just want to keep doing is just keep squishing it and getting into those chunks of the molasses that kind of mixed into that sugar up until it is the consistency and the color you want it to be. As you guys can tell, it's still really white, but we're gonna get that, keep squishing, and I'll show you guys when it's done. Alright, so it is now all mashed up to my liking. I don't really think I want it any darker than that, and I don't see any more white crystals, so that means I pretty much got all the molasses and sugar mixed in together, and that's good to go, and I have brown sugar now. Okay, the last part of prep is the pumpkin spice. Like I mentioned, if you just want to buy pumpkin spice, go ahead on and do that. The reason why I did not buy pumpkin spice was because when I went to Publix to go ahead and look for pumpkin pie spice, it came in a little ass jar and it was like $5 and change to buy a little jar like that. I was like, So I figured, why not just make my own pumpkin pie spice, get all the spices that I need to create it. That way I can make my own, and I have more spices in my cabinet that I can use for future recipes or anything, and I will be able to make a shit ton of pumpkin spice. So I'm pretty happy with that. So start off with 3 tablespoons of the ground cinnamon, 2 teaspoons of the ginger, 2 teaspoons of nutmeg, 1.5 teaspoons of allspice, and finally 1.5 teaspoons of your clove. So looking at this, you have a lot of different shades of browns. They look really gorgeous next to each other. And now you're just gonna mix it and you have pumpkin spice. If you guys were wondering how much pumpkin spice that gives you almost about 1/4 cup. And now that everything is all prepped, we can finally bake some pumpkin donuts. So to begin with, grab 2 separate bowls. First bowl is going to be for your dry ingredients, and your second bowl is going to be for your wet ingredients. Here are your ingredients. 1 1/4 cup of Earl all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of pumpkin spice, 1 teaspoon of your baking powder, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And now what you want to do is mix these together with a whisk, and this will complete your dry ingredients. Your brown sugar will count as a wet ingredient just because the molasses kind of intertwines with the sugar like that. So you'll need 1/2 cup of the brown sugar packed, 1/2 cup of almond milk. You can use original, unsweetened. I guess you don't really need to do vanilla just because we're adding vanilla to the recipe shortly, but if you want extra vanilla flavoring, go ahead. A 1/3 cup of that delicious pumpkin puree you made fresh, or if you have a can, that's okay too, guys. And if you would like to add a little bit more pumpkin, that is okay. Don't do so much more, just a teeny weeny more if you're feeling for more pumpkin. 2 tablespoons of melted coconut oil. If you're wondering how long it takes to melt the coconut oil, I put it in the microwave for only 30 seconds and it does the trick. And we have one more ingredient and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. That completes all your wet ingredients. Mix this up, and afterwards you're going to take your dry ingredients and add it to your wet ingredients slowly, and keep mixing as you add the dry, and as it comes more consistent, keep adding it more until you no longer have any more dry ingredients. One thing I will let you guys know, since you are mixing this, the coconut oil might seem a little bubbly and you're going to question it if that's how it's supposed to look. It's coconut oil. That is normal. Don't you worry, guys. As you can see, just try to mix it as best as you can. But don't worry if there are bubbles. It will be fine. Now, when it is all done and you have made sure you have mixed all those ingredients very nicely, your consistency should be a little bit of gooey, not too much liquidy, and if it's too thick and something went wrong, just add a little bit of almond milk, very little at a time until it's like this consistency, almost like a cake batter. Now you're probably thinking, when is this crazy lady gonna preheat her oven? The only reason why I did not preheat the oven first is because I was doing all the preparation for you guys like I was showing, and I have noticed when I make my donuts, I don't want to put on the oven to preheat up until I'm ready and the dough has been made and I'm about to put it in a Ziploc bag to put into my donut tray that I got at Joann's. So when I'm about to pour it in, that's when I generally notice I should start preheating the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and that gives me enough time to fill up the donut pan, and then the oven will be ready by then. This is the donut pan, guys. It's so beautiful. I had to go on a damn hunt for it too. Walmart and Publix do not have it in person. Walmart does sell it online, but you could always do those like order online, pick up in store. But if you don't want to do all that, just go find a Joann's or a Michael's. They will definitely have donut pans. Now you want to grease the donut pan with coconut oil. I generally like to just take a paper towel, dip the paper towel in the coconut oil, and just go like this. Make sure it's all secured, and that way the donuts will not stick to your pan, and it's an easier cleanup rather than adding any spray to it, because that's adding more oil probably than you want, and that way this is just quicker and easier. Now what I did was took all the batter and put it in a Ziploc bag. You want to make sure there is air in this Ziploc bag when you close it. The reason why we're doing this, you don't have to do it, but it's going to be a cool way just to take the corner. You're going to clip a very small corner of it, and it's like a squeeze bag where it's just going to easily pour into your donut pan. It's less of a mess. It will be messy if you do not have air in your bag and you decide to clip that corner and you start pouring the bag. And if that top is not closed correctly, you will create the biggest mess. And I am saying this from experience because I accidentally thought that the top was completely closed. It was not. All the batter started rushing towards the end on this side, and I just made a gigantic mess in my friend's kitchen. I felt horrible, but I was making them the donuts, so made up for it. Guys, this is so much harder with one hand. I'm trying to show you this. Oh well. Hold on. Alright. Sorry for that. So, this would be much easier with two hands. As you can see, I cut a tiny hole, and it's just pouring. And that's the reason why I'm doing it in a Ziploc bag, so it's less mess. You can just scoop it out with a spoon, or if you are fancy and actually have one of those funnels, good for you. Not all of us are balling like that. So just take a Ziploc, and the recipe with all the ingredients that I gave you for the measurement, it should give you a good amount for 6 donuts. So I'm going to finish this up with 2 hands now, and I'll show you when it's finished. Alright, when all is said and done, they should look like this. Make sure you try to fill it as much as you can to the top. If you do pour some batter on these little markings, it's okay. Just go ahead and wipe it off. That will be your donut hole. So you want to make sure you don't have batter there. You're not trying to bake that. So, yeah. And I let it settle just for a second, just so the batter all evened out. And now that my oven is done preheating to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, it is time to pop them in the oven for 12 minutes. Now, while that is baking for a glorious 12 minutes, thankfully it is not a long bake time after you just did all that work. It is time to actually start thinking of your toppings for your donut. You can kind of get fancy with it. You can do a powdered sugar, you could do a cinnamon sugar if you want. You could do a chocolate, melt some chocolate, do a chocolate frosting. Whatever you think will be good with pumpkin, go ahead and set that to the side. Now for like sugar and brown sugar, sorry, not brown sugar, like sugar and cinnamon and like powdered sugar, what you want to do is melt some coconut oil onto the side. And when those donuts are done baking and cooling, you're going to take a donut and basically lightly dip it in the melted coconut oil. Let it drip out, make sure there's no excess oil, and then dip it into the powdered sugar or the cinnamon sugar. And that way it'll actually stick to the donut and you can eat it. You could just do the top of the donut if you want. You could do both sides. Whatever floats your boat.
Look at them rice.
It's alive. I'm so excited. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. So, very carefully with your mitts, take them immediately out of this pan, put it on a cooling rack, and if you don't have a cooling rack, I guess put it on a pan. I think that should do. But you just want the donuts to breathe a bit. Let it cool down for only like a minute or two, just until you can pick up the donut and start putting the toppings on it. And when you guys weren't looking, I threw some vegan chocolate chips in there. I did get it from Publix. I wanted to test out the chocolate chips for the first time too. And there you guys have it. Those are how you make some delicious vegan pumpkin donuts. I got a little crazy and add some peanut butter and walnuts on top. Jeff and I love this topping the most. Beware, it is a little bit dry because of peanut butter. Just have some water nearby. But these donuts are to die for, guys. Can't wait till you guys try them. Thank you so much for tuning into my channel and learning how to make these with me. If you want to learn some more recipes, please stay tuned into my channel and subscribe, guys. Thank you so much. Take care.